Part 103. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1056. If. Master raised his head and looked at Su Tong. Although he couldn't see his current expression, Su Tong could feel the complicated emotions in Master's eyes at this moment. What if you regret it? The contract is valid for life. As long as I am alive, no one can kick you out of the team, because I feel that you have begun to create amazing value, but no one has discovered how to realize this value for the time being. Su Tong's outspokenness made Master feel the long-lost sincerity. He had encountered this kind of sincerity before, but when he took out his work, all he got in exchange was ridicule and humiliation. For a person who has difficulty even surviving, your kindness is like providing help in time, which I cannot refuse. From now on, I will become a member of your team. It is an honor to meet you, leader. Master is not a fool, otherwise he would not have developed a new transmission method like the beacon teleportation array. He could feel Su Tong's sincerity, and even more so, Su Tong's financial resources. 2 million script points per quarter is not a small sum. For ordinary players, this is definitely a fortune. It is a figure that is enough to make a high-end team feel pain for a long time. If there is no huge industry support behind it, such a price cannot be given. Ding. Master joins Team 7 Gates. As the prompt sounded, the team channel instantly became lively. Huh? There's a new guy here? Boss, who is this? The name sounds like a foreigner. Gu Zibai asked in the team channel. Newcomers take photos together, take photos with fruits, that's the rule. Chang Wogu also started to boo. Hello, newbie, my name is Libo. Facing the warm greetings from the group members, Master felt a little uncomfortable for a while, but to his surprise, the team was not as big as he thought. Ignore them, come with me, I will take you to see how amazing your value is. Su Tong stood up and led Master out of the restaurant. On the way, Master gradually began to talk more. When he learned that Su Tong's team was not the Western team he was familiar with, Master couldn't help but reveal a bit of a wry smile on his face. He didn't expect that he would sell himself directly to the other side of the ocean in a daze. As if aware of Master's emotions, Su Tong patted him on the shoulder disapprovingly. There is a proverb in China, which is that if you don't leave your master here, you will have your own place. Believe me, your talent will be the best here, it will be used even more. You have to know that monks from outside like to chant sutras, but the teleportation array is a new thing here. These words made Master immediately smell a business opportunity. Yes, in the circle of Western players, the teleportation array has been developed to the extreme. It is not easy to break the concept and let people take risks and accept new things in an already mature system. But here, maybe people will be willing to accept the risk. Fortunately, Su Tong didn't know Master's thoughts, otherwise he would have made it clear to him how bad his work was. Before leaving, he did not forget to call out Amoda. After the three of them returned to Lo Jinfang, Su Tong took Master straight to the basement. I said that your value can only be realized here. Now, is the moment to witness the miracle. After Su Tong told Master, he asked him to take out a beacon and try to throw it into the fantasy Rubik's Cube. Su Tong didn't know how Master was feeling at this moment, but his heartbeat couldn't help but start to speed up. In fact, he had already prepared for the worst. After all, Su Tong had no idea whether this thing could be strengthened and what the price of strengthening would be. When the dream Rubik's Cube gave a prompt, Su Tong's pupils tightened. Ding, are you willing to spend 10 script points to enhance this item? Hiss, at this moment, Su Tong wondered if he had heard something wrong. After confirming again and again, it turned out that it was really only 10 points for the script. For a moment, Su Tong even had the urge to look up to the sky and scream. 10 o'clock script score? What kind of magical prop is this? Shouldn't the teleportation ability be very powerful? How can it be strengthened so that it requires 10 script points? All kinds of doubts arose, but Su Tong chose to strengthen without any hesitation. After strengthening it to level 6 in one go, he quickly picked it up and took a look. When he looked at Matt's side, his eyes changed. Master was so scared that he felt the look in his eyes, because he had only experienced this kind of look from the ant on the streets of the Netherlands. How much does it cost to make one of this? Su Tong asked, suppressing his urge to rush forward and kiss Master. Matt's face turned red when he heard this, and he felt a little embarrassed. He scratched his head, that, the cost is probably, about 400,000 script points, but I am very skilled in production. It should be possible to reduce costs a little more. No. Don't save me any money, just do it for me according to the standard of 400,000, and do as much as you can. After saying this, Su Tong stuffed the teleportation beacon in his hand into Master's arms. Then he walked upstairs, make a separate room for our God of Wealth, and allocate 2 million script points to him immediately, and the money will be taken out of the account. Master felt happy when he heard that he had been allocated money so quickly. He picked up the road sign that Su Tong had just returned to him and took a closer look. For a moment, Master was immediately stunned. The things are still my own, but the content of the entry has changed drastically from before. Teleport beacon add 6. 80%, success rate. Teleportation can be carried out at any beacon location, or it can be set to one-way transmission. For each teleportation, the required script points will be calculated based on the teleportation object. Cooling time, 30 seconds. The success rate has increased. Now it was Master's turn to be dumbfounded. The success rate that he had dreamed of improving could be improved so easily. Perhaps only at this moment can Master truly understand what Su Tong just said, and here can he show his true value. Suddenly it was Master's turn to start dancing and reveling. There is a saying that misfortunes never come singly, but good things come in pairs. Su Tong had just discussed Master's placement with Mei when the gunslingers arrived. The visitor is Judge Meng Changsheng, the deputy leader of the Spear God Regiment. Su Tong was very impressed by him. Meng Changsheng had personally dueled with Yan Zioqi before Yan Zioqi became a god and when he first opened the arena. This guy has developed the ability of the plant system to the extreme. If you encounter him on the battlefield, this guy will be a thorny problem. Meng Changsheng came in person this time. In addition to getting back the last batch of enhanced prop cards, he also sent Su Tong another batch of prop cards. There are not many prop cards this time, only 7, but every prop card can be regarded as the best among high-end ones. Su Tong glanced at it casually and knew that these props were not trivial. Among them, the spear called Divine Judge Destiny shone with a dazzling brilliance. It was obviously the weapon of the gun god Bulyuan. In order to ensure the success of the enhancement, Meng Changsheng also took out the blessing oil that Su Tong had been thinking about. A full 30 oak barrels. This made Su Tong extremely happy. With these blessing oils, he could finally try to strengthen the Pure Yang sword to level 10 or above. These are sent to you by our team leader, please make sure they are foolproof. Meng Changsheng was smiling, but his eyes were always fixed on Su Tong. These 7 prop cards are Buletin Luan's core treasures. If any damage occurs, it will be a devastating blow to the entire Gun God group. Su Tong also knows the importance of these things, but strengthening it to the level of Ad 9 does not put any pressure on him at all. However, this time the method requires paying the bill first and then strengthening it. After all, the cost of strengthening this level of props is already it far exceeds the liquidity on Lo Jinfang's books. He motioned to Mei to take the prop cards down and calculate the cost of strengthening these 7 prop cards to Ad 9. Soon a list was sent up. For the 7 prop cards, May directly offered 85.73 million script points. Su Tong secretly noted it on the bill and calculated in his mind, "My dear, this deal will make a net profit of 20 million. Meng Changsheng frowned, knowing that the cost of strengthening this time would be very expensive, but he didn't expect it to be so expensive. Even for the gun gods, it would be very painful to spend such a sum of money. Hopefully it's worth it." Meng Changsheng sighed secretly. In fact, he felt that relying on this kind of reinforcement to improve the team's strength was unreasonable. He also has a add 6 level prop card, but it feels like the improvement is not very big, not enough to turn the entire battlefield around. It's just something that the group leader determines. I can't intervene, I can only choose to transfer money silently. After getting May's nod, Su Tong's mouth almost reached the back of his head with joy. The 20 million script points have been paid Indiana. Now I can even pay for my strengthening. I look at the Spear God group and will change its name to the God of Wealth group in the future. Thinking of this, Su Tong's eyes became much gentler when he looked at Meng Changsheng in front of him. It felt like the God of Wealth was chasing behind his butt to feed him. It was nothing more than that. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Ganxiao. Chapter 1057. Meng Changsheng is a very thoughtful person. As one of the 8 great evils, his methods are frightening to his enemies. But no matter how hard he tried, he could only stop there. The massive resources of the gun gods were tilted towards him, but with these massive resources, he could not get any further improvement. In Buelyuan's words, his heart is not pure enough to be pure and flawless. Even if it is piled up with countless resources, it is still a castle in the air, and there is no room for improvement. It is precisely for this reason that the team's resources have begun to be slowly tilted towards subordinate teams, and Meng Changsheng has nothing to do about it. Especially after Yan Zioqi, one of the 3 onlys, completed the conferment of gods, this strong sense of frustration had penetrated deeply into his heart. However, at this moment, when Su Tong handed the enhanced prop card to Meng Changsheng, all the thoughts in Meng Changsheng's mind were swept away. There was only one thing in his mind: enhancement. So shocking. When this Add 9 Divine Judgment Destiny appeared in front of him, Meng Changsheng almost screamed with excitement. I thought that the enhancement levels of Add 9 and Add 6 were just some additional changes in attributes. The result surprised him. The 2 were completely qualitative changes. It's not even a thing at all. Not only was an active skill added, but other passive skills were also greatly increased. With this spear, I believe the leader's strength is enough to rise to at least 2 more levels. If Caesar and the other 3 god-level players join forces again, I'm afraid they won't be the team leader's opponent. It is just as the leader expected, Lo Jinfang is an important step for them to change the situation of the war. At this moment, Meng Changsheng had to lament that the leader's ability to see people and things was still so ruthless. Collect these prop cards carefully and transfer them directly to Buelyuan through the team warehouse. At the same time, Meng Changsheng couldn't help but ask about Su Tong's enhancement, such as why the cost of this enhancement was so exaggerated. Su Tong did not hide anything, and told Meng Changsheng the principle that each time he strengthened a level, the cost would double. In other words, the further you go, the more exaggerated the cost of strengthening will be. If the team leader wants to continue to strengthen next time, he not only has to bear the risk of the item card breaking, but the cost required for each level may be the sum of the previous costs. Su Tong said this to give the rich man of the gun gods a hard shot. In human terms, you should keep all your money for me and don't spend it everywhere. Spending money in Lo Jinfang is the right thing to do. After learning about these circumstances, Meng Changsheng left with excitement. Su Tong didn't know what he was thinking of, but it seemed that this group deputy had the potential to be a big customer. After sending away this big customer, Su Tong plunged into the basement, pulled master, and began to strengthen the beacon in his hand. Master's teleportation beacon only has a 20% success probability at first, but with each level of enhancement, the success rate can be increased by 10%. It only needs to be strengthened to level 8 to reach 100%, but Su Tong still successfully strengthened it to add 9. After the teleportation beacon was raised to add 9, the effect was even more different. Not only does the transmission success rate reach 100%, it also comes with a passive skill. It's called landmark recognition. Beacon identification. Special identification can be performed on beacons. Those who have not been identified and authenticated cannot be transmitted through beacons. To put it bluntly, this set of beacons can become the team's exclusive beacons. Even if others have beacons in their hands, they cannot teleport to the beacon positions arranged by others. This function greatly complemented the shortcomings of the teleportation beacons, which also inspired Master. He only focused on studying teleportation, but forgot to add a protective door between the teleportation beacons. Of course, it's not his fault. The new transmission theory is not perfect yet, so there is no way to think about these issues. Su Tong's task for Master is to concentrate on making beacons. He will still get a share of the profits earned by the team. This is given to him alone and has nothing to do with research funding. Now Master felt no burden at all, and told Su Tong that he would go back to reality, and after thoroughly dealing with the things in reality, he would take root in Lojinfang and never return to reality. This is also a matter of course. Of course Su Tong will not object, but just in case, Su Tong still gave Master 2 purple Sky Thunder talismans to protect his life, and also authorized Master to use the life-saving talisman on his body. Go back after strengthening the prop card once. This will be the god of wealth of Lojinfang in the future. If something unexpected happens at this stall, he will end up crying in the toilet. After all, such cases abound in reality. Whether they developed a special coating formula or used water to replace fuel, these people basically died inexplicably not long after the results were announced. Su Tong didn't want such a bloody thing to happen to him. This thing is actually a good thing. Let's also set up a set so that I don't have to run up and down in the future. The girl on the counter looked at the teleportation sign and couldn't help but praise it. Then he asked Su Tong, "How much do you plan to sell this thing for?" Of course, the more expensive the better. After all, this thing is much easier to use than some teleportation array. Including the strengthening fee, the cost is about 400,000. If Su Tong doesn't sell this thing for 100 times the price difference, can he still make money? After thinking about it, May felt that there was a lot of profit, and then asked, "Then do we sell other things?" "Sell, the flying paper will continue to be sold. Master can only make 4 of these teleportation beacons a month. Let's sell the flying paper freely, and the income may not be worse than the teleportation beacon. This is called luxury and civilians." Seeing Su Tong speaking so confidently, May suddenly covered her mouth and laughed. "Eh? Is there something wrong with what I said?" Seeing May suddenly smiling so happily, Su Tong couldn't help scratching his head and asked, "I laugh at you. You don't look like a god, but more like an out-and-out profiteer." When May smiled, she would have small dimples at the corners of her mouth, which made her look particularly beautiful. Su Tong was stunned for a moment. When May came to her senses, she rolled her eyes at him. "You brat, your compliments are useless. Hee, it's hard to buy a beautiful smile, not to mention you look so pretty when you smile." Su Tong did not dodge his sister's gaze, but took a step closer. Seeing this, May was a little panicked and looked around. "I'm going to see how Master's room is tidied upstairs." After saying that, he ran away in a hurry. Su Tong grinned when he saw this. Just when he wanted to take the opportunity to tease his sister again, he heard Mr. Tai's voice from behind, "Ahem." Su Tong looked back and found that Tai had walked in and sat on the sofa with a slightly embarrassed expression. "Sorry for disturbing your good mood." Why are you here? It's not the time to pay yet. Su Tong's shamelessness has long been unmatched in the world, so when he saw this, he glared at Tai with a resentful look. Speaking of money, a satisfied smile immediately appeared on Tai's face. How can such a profitable industry work if I don't come here to see how it will work? The two sat on the sofa, and Su Tong also took the opportunity to talk about the teleportation beacon. He wanted to know if there were any special standards for the enhancement fee of the fantasy Rubik's Cube. Why is the cost of strengthening something like a teleportation beacon so cheap? After Tai heard about it, he asked him to take out an unenhanced teleportation beacon. After examining it carefully, Tai threw this thing to Su Tong. You damn luck, why do you always find the treasure I want? It turned out that after Tai got the fantasy Rubik's Cube, he knew it was a super treasure, so he had been trying his best to study it. I don't know how many things I tried before I finally figured out that the original cost standard for strengthening was not related to the effectiveness of the thing, nor the value of the strengthened item itself, but the defects of the item itself. The greater the flaw of this thing, the cheaper the strengthening cost will be. For example, flying paper. This thing can only carry a weight of 20 kilograms, making it almost a useless fighter. The kind that no one wants if left on the street. Although Su Tong was a little confused, he didn't say it out loud. He only acknowledged it on the surface but disagreed in his heart. The two then talked about the auction. The organizer of this event is almost autistic. I heard that the higher UPS are furious about this event. It's really interesting. Seeing a gloating expression on the stage, Su Tong asked carefully, who is the one above you talking about? Tai's expression changed, and he quickly stretched out his hand to signal Su Tong to stop talking. He looked around cautiously, dipped his fingers in tea, and wrote two words on the table. Kunlun. After being sent off to the stage, Su Tong sat on the chair, looking at the dried marks on the table, and felt lost in his heart. At this time, Ame came down from upstairs. Seeing that he was thinking about something, she asked, "What, are you shocked?" Su Tong nodded. Kunlun, the place where the gods live, is rumored to be the dojo of the Queen Mother of the West, a holy land longed for by the gods. It is said that King Mu of Zhou went to Kunlun to pay homage to the Queen Mother of the West. It is also said that when I set out to the west, I eventually headed to Kunlun. It can be seen that there is the source of the land of the gods. But from the conversation on the stage, it turned out that the so-called top of the script studio was also the rumored Kunlun. Su Tong was inevitably a little shocked and nodded. If I have the chance, I would also like to visit Kunlun. Don't want. Unexpectedly, as soon as these words came out, Aime's face suddenly turned horribly pale, and she grabbed his hand. Don't go. That's a place that eats people regardless of their bones. Listen to me, don't go to that place unless necessary. Su Tong was a little surprised by Aime's uncharacteristic expression. She stared at him seriously, her eyes filled with fear. As if recalling something terrible, he said to Su Tong word by word, "That's the real hell." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1058. Su Tong has never seen Aime's emotions so intense. This made his intention to ask more about Kunlun disappear instantly. He could feel the fear of Kunlun in Aime's heart. It was a fear engraved in her bones. Even when Su Tong suggested going to Kunlun to take a look, Aime's hands would tremble involuntarily. Seeing this, Su Tong gently held Aime in his arms and comforted him softly, until Aime calmed down after a while. After regaining her composure, Aime seemed to be a different person. She pushed Su Tong away coldly, stood up, and walked to the counter to continue busy with her own affairs. If you really go to that place one day, remember that in every glass of wine you drink, there will be the blood of countless races. Su Tong didn't know what kind of stimulation May received, but he was certain that the topic of Kunlun could no longer be discussed. So he quickly called haha and slipped out the door. Gu Zibai and Chang Wuhen are both in the arena now. Ever since Gu Zibai became a martial saint, Chang Wuhen has been trying to find his flaws. So these two guys hang out in the arena every day. Anyway, the arena is closed now. In the huge arena, they can fight as they want without worrying about being noticed. Best of all, it's free. Su Tong is also very happy to see the success. With the help of Gu Zibai, a martial saint, he believes that Chang Wuzi will improve his strength much faster. Gao Zhou is still outside taking care of the child for the time being. Su Tong estimates that this guy is holding his son and is happy at this time, and will not come to the exhibition for a while. After thinking about it, Su Tong went to the low-level exhibition area to find Li Bo to see how his business was doing. Compared with the high-level exhibition area, the low-level exhibition area is more lively. The streets are open where they should be, and everyone's transactions are barely affected. Think about it, how much money can you spend in a low-level exhibition area? What's more, ordinary players live with their heads in every scenario world. There is no tomorrow but today, so why do they care about the life and death of your gunnery group? So relatively speaking, it's still very lively here. Li Bo's business was not affected at all. When Su Tong walked in, he found that this guy had hired a waiter. Already acting like a boss, he was sitting at a small table nearby, drinking tea, eating snacks, and listening to storytelling. His little life was enjoyable. "Young man, you are very leisurely." Su Tong stepped forward, and Li Bo realized that the boss was here. He quickly stood up and gave up his seat, and said with a smile, "In business, there is always leisure time." After saying that, he asked the clerk in the store to take out the account book and hand it to Su Tong. After looking at it for a few times, Su Tong nodded. The account was done well. Various types of prop cards are divided into categories in this account book. If you want to find any type of prop card, you can easily find it by opening the directory. Su Tong took a look and found that there was actually a catalog of time prop cards. When he opened it, he saw that there was indeed one. A time prop card has been registered. No surprise, no joy, no hit. Li Bo stood aside and started to murmur. This was a time prop card, but he had spent a lot of effort to acquire it. Because he opened this store, the price for buying prop cards was fair enough, so many people in low-level exhibition areas would come here directly to trade. This time prop card was only recently collected. And he offered a very high price, 50,000 script points. This price was at least in the low-level exhibition area. No one could offer a higher price than him. Awesome. Su Tong had to sigh again. This guy Li Bo is simply an invincible lucky star. Even a new player knows how precious the time prop card is. People would rather hold it in their hands than sell it, so Su Tong never thought that Li Bo's store could receive such things. However, he still underestimated the potential in the low-level exhibition area. Su Tong then looked at the time prop card. After carefully checking the entry of the prop card, he understood why the other party wanted to sell it. It's not because it's not strong, but because this prop card belongs to the time amplification type, which is completely different from the time traveler and sands of time in my hand. This prop card is in the shape of a silver cigarette box, with only one cigarette inside. Smoke of time. Time is like the wind and I am like smoke. I only hope I will not regret my glorious years. Passive skill 1, Bloodstained silver cigarette box. A cigarette is automatically generated every 30 days. Passive skill 2, Smoke-stained shadow. For the wearer, the effect of time-related abilities is increased by 2 seconds. Active skills, time is like the wind. Lighting a cigarette can double the time duration. Cooling time, 30 days. Note, can you give me a cigarette? It tastes like that. Su Tong looked at the introduction of the prop card and asked Li Bo to take out the prop card and put it in his hand to play with it. Very interesting prop card, maybe because when men smoke, they always think of many things inadvertently. So much so that things like cigarettes can always make people involuntarily associate them with time and stories. Su Tong took the things and said, "Go back and tell Ame and quote the price. When we settle the quarter this time, we will make up for it together with you." Su Tong is also poor now. Not to mention 50,000 script points in his pocket, he couldn't even get out 30,000. Although the gun gods had just sent a big order with a profit of 20 million, they still had a valuable teleportation beacon in hand. But the money is all in Lo Jinfang's account. If you want to settle the account, you have to wait until the next quarter. So I can only owe it to Li Bo first. Oh, plus what I owed before, I owed Li Bo at least nearly 1.7 million. Su Tong is rare for a team leader to get into trouble and owe money to his team members. Fortunately, the Wanja auction will start tomorrow. Su Tong has been looking forward to this day. I believe that Su Tong is not the only one who is waiting for this day. Many people are waiting for the auction to start. Early the next morning, Su Tong stretched out and walked out of Lo Jinfang. He originally wanted to take Li Bo, the lucky guy, with him, but Li Bo didn't like this so-called big scene, and he preferred to hide. In the corner of a low-level exhibition, quietly be a businessman who makes enough money. In Li Bo's words, in a place where resources are highly concentrated, there is no leakage to pick up, and you can't buy anything you want with money. It's not as comfortable as in a low-level exhibition area. After all, there are many players, and there will always be one or two ignorant guys who come to your door. As long as you succeed in picking up the leak once, you will be happy for several days. Su Tong unexpectedly felt that what the fat boy Li Bo said was quite reasonable. So he called Chang Wuhen and Gu Zibai, but they didn't know that they had already entered the venue in advance with fighting god Yan Zioqi. Now he could only walk slowly towards the Wanja auction by himself. The organizer of this auction is Wanja Trading Company, a high-rise building standing tall in major exhibition centers. Just looking at it gives people a modern feeling. As soon as he entered the building, Su Tong felt that there was a clear difference between here and the outside, as if all the players were gathered in this place. It was densely packed with people. The auction is also divided into floors. Ordinary certified players can only conduct auction transactions in the lobby. Prop cards that can be traded will appear on the big screen. These include attributes, terms, low prices, bids, etc. If you come with the intention of picking up leaks or just watching the fun, you are destined to be disappointed. Going up is the intermediate exhibition hall. There are still a lot of players here, but the environment is much better than in the hall. Everyone can also have a separate seat, which is a bit like the auction scene in the TV series. Su Tong stopped and watched for a moment and then turned around and left. There was nothing worth buying. "Boss, have you come to the auction?" At this time, Chang Wenzhen's voice came from the team channel. "We're already here, where are you?" Su Tong was a little surprised. He didn't expect Chang Wogu to come as well. After getting Su Tong's response, Chang Wogu immediately asked Su Tong to wait for him at the elevator entrance number 3, and he came down immediately. About 2 minutes later, Chang Wogu walked out of the elevator, waved to Su Tong, and took Su Tong back to the elevator. He and Gu Zibai came with Yan Zioqi. Yan Zioqi's status as a fighting god allowed them to directly enter the most advanced top-level auction. Yan Zioqi knew that Su Tong was coming, so he specially used the privilege of fighting god to open a separate suite for Su Tong. Although the two have not directly admitted to joining forces with each other, they have already tacitly formed an offensive and defensive alliance. This is a tacit understanding between smart people. The potential of Lo Jinfang is too great, and it needs a very reliable helper. This helper can't be the 6th Regiment, but Yan Zioki, because he is a newly rising force and like Lo Jinfang, his foundation is not solid enough. Only by relying on each other can we gradually gain a firm foothold here. As for other people, it is impossible for them to cooperate. Even though he was flirting with the gun gods now, Su Tong dared to say that as long as the gun gods had a chance, they would definitely try their best to swallow up Lo Jinfang. Including the points reward for this event, Su Tong didn't believe that the gunslingers would give the top prize to Lo Jinfang so easily and naturally. I'm afraid I don't know how many conditions will need to be added by then. This is one of the reasons why Su Tong must participate in this auction. Of course, there is another reason why he participates in the auction, and that is because he is poor. When he entered the suite, Yan Zioki was already sitting on the sofa waiting for him. Su Tong sat down and took a look, vomiting. The side was really wide. The sofa faced the glass, and behind the glass was a space like a football field. All auction props will appear on the glass in the form of three-dimensional projections. As for who took out the items for auction, buyers will basically not know. How's it going? Have you prepared anything good this time? Yan Zioki looked at Su Tong, looking forward to whether this guy could come up with something amazing. Of course, what about you? Su Tong nodded and asked Yan Zioki. Yan Zioki smiled mysteriously and took out something from the prop book and handed it to Su Tong. Su Tong took it and took a look, and his face suddenly flickered. Are you crazy? Are you selling this thing? Ha 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 ha, it depends on whether you are willing to buy it or not. If you like it, I also welcome it. After all, I am really short of money. If you're afraid, I'll be cruel to you. Su Tong quickly waved his hand and returned the 20% share contract of the arena. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1059. It's no exaggeration to say that Yan Zioki's arena is making money every day. After all, the arena is full and it's definitely a hot industry. But now Yan Zioki wants to sell 20% of the shares, which is to cash out. Su Tong couldn't figure out what he was thinking. I can't help it. I'm poor. I got a lot of strength from you last time. Hey, I'm so poor now that I'm almost selling my pants. Yan Zioki began to complain that the cost of strengthening was too scary. It was fine before level 6, but if it is enhanced to level 6, the cost of each enhancement will almost catch up with the total cost of previous enhancements. At that time, he was so strong that he strengthened all the key prop cards on his body to the level of AD 9. What was even more terrifying was that he also strengthened his gloves to the level of AD 12. This was strengthened by hard luck without using blessing oil. Even for Yan Zioki, the majestic fighting god, the cost of this enhanced set of expenses has almost wiped out all the profits he made during this period of time in the arena. You must know that there are also funds to maintain the arena and the wages of employees. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so embarrassed. When Su Tong heard Yan Zioki's complaints about poverty, he was secretly speechless. He didn't know whether to call him brave or timid. The luck of the fight is enhanced to AD 12. If he is not careful, he will be dead. His combat effectiveness will be greatly damaged by then. If people notice it, it will be difficult for him to keep his reputation as a fighting god. Brother, although I want to help you, I am still poor now. I haven't confiscated your enhancement fee yet. Su Tong took out the cigarette rod, lit the tobacco and started smoking. Ha 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 ha, you're a black-hearted profiteer, you're the scapegoat of the gunslings, I don't know how much money you're going to make. Yan Zioki pointed at Su Tong with a smile, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. The potential of this rising star who rose almost at the same time as himself was simply unfathomable. Even though he is a fighting god, if the guy in front of him is willing, with the blessing of Lo Jinfang, he can easily become a god. Even the gunslings and other 6 major teams, no one dared to stumble him, and even waved flags to cheer him up. While the two were talking, the auction had already begun. More than 10 auction collections appeared on the glass in front of me, and the host began to introduce them one by one. Su Tong took a look and saw that it was indeed a rare treasure in ordinary times. The most concerning one is an item card called Gambler's Chest. According to the instructions in the entry, you can open it every 10 days. Every time you open it, you can get whatever you want from the box. Anything will do, but the price is that you'll need to put your most precious possessions in the chest in exchange. As soon as this thing appeared, the price started to soar instantly. The starting price was 800,000 script points, and in an instant it had reached 2 million script points. Rubbish. Yan Zioki just glanced at it and knew what it was, and complained with disdain, if it is the most precious thing, then why should you exchange it for something else? Although the words were thorough, the auction price continued to soar, and it was finally sold at a price of 2.4 million. Then several more collections appeared, but after Yan Zioki looked at them for a while, he stood up in disappointment. I'm going to have something to eat. The things that appear now are all rubbish. The highlight will be left behind. Do you want to come with me? The food here is pretty good. Su Tong originally wanted to come, but it was his first time to participate in such an auction. It would be false to say that he was not curious. So I decided to watch it for a while and let Yan Zioki go first. So Yan Zioki took Gu Zibai and Chang Wogu to eat first. Su Tong stayed alone in the suite, smoking and looking at the prop cards that kept flashing in front of him. In fact, Su Tong also had a small idea. He wanted to make alchemy, but he lacked some major alchemy materials, and the purpose of making alchemy was for Daya. In order to break through to the realm of gods, Daya did not hesitate to use the inner elixir to help, but the inner elixir was cracked and has not yet been fully cultivated. Su Tong wanted to make a furnace of elixirs to repair Daya's inner elixir. Su Tong cares about everyone around him, including the little guys in the hall. Sometimes he just doesn't say it. It is for this reason that Su Tong is willing to sit here and watch, hoping to encounter suitable alchemy materials. Prop cards appeared one after another, but as Yan Zioki said, most of them were junk and just fake. There are a few truly exquisite pieces, but they are not what Su Tong wants. In his boredom, he could only slowly pass the time by smoking hookah, and before he knew it, the room was filled with smoke. Buzz. At this time, the door of the suite was pushed open through a gap, and a figure poked its head out furtively. After taking a deep breath in the room, he took a closer look and saw the hookah pipe in Su Tong's hand. He immediately happy, boy, I just said that the smell is so familiar, it turns out you are here. When Su Tong heard the voice, he recognized it immediately. He sat up and looked back, and it turned out to be Blind Man Kong. He said in surprise, Brother Kong, is this a coincidence? Come on, come on. Su Tong warmly greeted Blind Man Kong to come in. Blind Man Kong walked in and sat in Yan Zioki's seat, with his legs crossed on the sofa. I haven't seen you for a while, and I was thinking of you just now. I smelled it as soon as I mentioned it to my nose, and I almost thought it was you. Su Tong grinned. Brother Kong must have prepared a lot of good things this time. How was the harvest? Blind Man Kong curled his lips and said, Hey, don't tell me, it's bad luck, it's all the owners who don't know the goods. Just as he was talking, a prop appeared on the glass in front of him. Full moon scimitar, left sword. Su Tong and Kong Xiaozi were stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but look at each other and laugh. This prop was the rare prop he had obtained when he and Blind Kong went to the casino together to gamble on the prop book. From Chapter 8 of Volume 9. Someone originally offered 100,000 points for the script, but Kong didn't even sell it. He was determined to keep it for himself, but he didn't expect that he was willing to sell it now. However, Su Tong remembered that this weapon seemed to be stained with resentment, but now the resentment is gone. When Su Tong asked, Blind Man Kong did not hide it and said that he had washed it off with blessed water. Moreover, this blessed water is actually blessed oil, but it has been processed and renamed. If blessed water is gasoline, then blessed oil is equivalent to crude oil. Speaking of this matter, Blind Man Kong couldn't help but complain. Blessed water is actually very cheap. Fan My Mountain can produce a lot of blessed oil every quarter, but recently they didn't know what happened and sold the script world rich in blessed oil to the gun gods. The gun gods don't sell blessing oil either, so I was able to get some stock from my friends because of my shame. When Su Tong heard this, he couldn't help but raise his brows slightly and thought to himself, if Mount Fan My knew that strengthening requires a lot of blessing oil, he would probably die on the spot. It is precisely because of this that the Spear God group spent a lot of effort to purchase the origin of the blessing oil from Fan My Mountain. When the time comes to fully open up the enhancements, the gun gods will hold the blessing oil, and they will be hoarding it. What's the price? Sure enough, Zhang is still very old. I guess this move was thought up by Mr. Zhang. He is the professional in business. Su Tong had to admire Mr. Zhang in his heart for his high methods and long-term vision. Compared with him, he was just a profiteer at best. Fortunately, Mr. Zhang didn't know what Su Tong was thinking, otherwise he would definitely point his finger at him and tell him that he also wanted to be a profiteer, but he didn't have the capital. Full Moon Scimitar, Left Sword. It is indeed a fine product. The most important thing is that this thing is a component of a set. Once the set is put together, its power can be called an artifact. So as soon as this thing appeared, the price jumped up instantly. Seeing that the price had reached the 4 million mark, Blind Man Kong beside him was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth from ear to ear. Looking at Su Tong, brother, what are you going to sell? You have to sell it early, otherwise it will be difficult to sell something when the big teams come in later. Why? Aren't the financial resources of the big team amazing? Su Tong looked at Mr. Zhang and asked curiously. Ha ha ha, the things that people buy and sell are all worth tens of millions of dollars. What can you have on hand that can reach this level? Blind Man Kong pinched his beard and laughed. Although he was very optimistic about the successor of the Seven Gates, he was optimistic about it, but he didn't think Su Tong could come up with anything that could shock the whole audience. Oh, Brother Kong, how about we make a bet? As soon as he heard about the bet, Blind Man Kong immediately became excited and sat upright. What are you betting on? How about I bet that the thing I bring out will sell for the highest price in the room? Impossible. When Blind Man Kong heard this, his voice was raised by 8 do. Absolutely impossible. Don't you know that the Spear God group is holding back its energy? It is said that what they took out this time is a rare treasure in the world. Then it depends on whether you dare to gamble. Su Tong's indifferent attitude instantly made Blind Kong angry. He stood on the sofa and looked at Su Tong condescendingly. Hey, kid, don't say your master is Shuigui. I may not be able to beat you, but if you want to bet, I, Kong Xiaozi, the god of gambling, have never lost before. If you can win, I will give you whatever you want. What are you doing? But what if you lose? Su Tong didn't expect that just when he said that, Blind Kong would be so excited and scratched his head. You said it. Okay, I won't bully you. If you lose, I'll hand over your 7 special skills, Beishinko, okay. Ha ha ha, you are waiting for me here, okay, it's not easy for you to learn this. Su Tong readily agreed. He knew that Blind Kang's father was Chu Zhao. He was let go by his master at the beginning, and he had been harboring a grudge against Beishinko for many years. I guess this is also a dream come true for his father. Seeing Su Tong agree, Blind Man Kong immediately squatted down and asked, brother, you can't regret agreeing. How about you take out the things first and let me take a look? Okay, I'd like to ask you to estimate the price. As Su Tong spoke, he took out more than a dozen teleportation beacons that he had prepared. Blind Man Kong thought they were some precious treasures that would allow Su Tong to pay such careful attention. When he took a look at these dark beacons, he immediately showed disappointment. "Brother, it's not that my brother tricked you, it's really." As he spoke, he picked up one and took a closer look. The second half of Blind Man Kang's sentence was stuck in his throat. After staring blankly at the entries in the prop book, for a moment, his head tilted and his mouth opened wide. You must have cheated. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1060. Blind Man Kong can be considered a well-informed person, and he has seen the teleportation array before. The cost of a single transmission is not high, but the key is that the layout of this thing is too expensive. A teleportation array requires at least tens of millions of level consumables, which directly raises the threshold to a level that ordinary people cannot afford to play. The most important thing is that this teleportation array is unique to the Western camp, and the people who can deploy the teleportation array are almost all in the top Western teams. Even a super team like the Gun Gods, no one can set up a teleportation array. And now the appearance of these teleportation beacons seems to be a feeling that they are going to break this routine. At least in Kong Xiaozi's view, the appearance of this thing is bound to set off a huge wave. After an exaggerated scream, Blind Man Kong calmed down, then played with the beacon in his hand, thought for a moment, and returned the beacon to Su Tong Hao. "Tell me, what do you want?" "Eh? I haven't even started yet, why did you give up?" When Su Tong saw this, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. This was not the effect he wanted. Blind Kong glared at Su Tong with his double pupils, and said with a smile, "What else is there to compare with? If you take out this thing at this time, it will be like taking out a bottle of mineral water in the desert same. This thing is indeed a good thing. If it were at a different time, the price of this thing would be around 50 million, and it could not be more. But at this point in time, it's hard to say." As he said, "This is the mineral water in the desert. 2 yuan usually seems expensive to you. But in the desert, for those who are about to die of thirst, this thing is life-saving gold." Blind Man Kong lay down on the chair, looking like a paralyzed GEU. The current situation of the Spear God Regiment is not optimistic, but if they can get these teleportation arrays in your hands, the embarrassing situation of insufficient troops will be reversed in an instant. Come over. The Western camp will never watch the gunslingers take these things, so they will definitely increase the price wildly. Speaking of this, Kong Xiaozi said meaningfully, "The most taboo thing in this auction house is the word fight. It is normal for anything related to this word to be sold at an outrageous price. So at this point, Su Tong has already won. The Gun Gods and the Western camp may be able to come up with something more precious. But the question is, who will buy it? Those who can afford it may not buy it, and those who want it may not have the ability." According to his initial estimate, what the Spear Gods and the Western camp could come up with were nothing more than rare treasures, at best. Otherwise, if it is really a top-notch treasure and is offered to the other party to buy it, wouldn't this be sincere support for the enemy? Blind Man Kong claimed to be the god of gamblers, and he had nothing to say about the gambling products. At this moment, he readily admitted defeat to save himself face. After receiving Blind Kang's approval, Su Tong immediately felt relieved. In fact, he thought so too, but he didn't know for sure. "Originally, I planned to sell all the dozen or so teleportation beacons in my hand if they could not be sold individually at a high price, and win by quantity. I'm not polite about that. I want to make a top-notch elixir, but I lack the main ingredient. The properties of this medicine." Su Tong's eyebrows moved slightly, and the thought of the elixir was awakened, and he read out several medicinal materials and requirements. Su Tong said like a picture. Blind Man Kong wrote down these things and curled his lips. "Good guy, these things are not easy to find, but there may be some left in Guanyin Pavilion's warehouse. I'll go give you a look." When the auction is over, you can come to Angelica Soup, find me at home. As he spoke, Blind Man Kong threw a house card to Su Tong, saying that when he got to the place, just come to him with the house card. While the two were talking, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door, and they saw that Yan Zioki and the others, who were full of wine and food, had turned back. When Yan Zioki saw Blind Kong sitting in his seat, he was stunned for a moment. When Blind Kong looked at Yan Zioki, he couldn't help but be startled. Immediately, the two of them nodded. No one said anything. Yan Zioki turned around and sat down on the other sofa. Seeing this, Su Tong's mind moved and he noticed something, but it was hard to find out at the moment. 5 people sat in the room, and the atmosphere was a little awkward for a while. Fortunately, the auction has gradually begun to reach its peak, and major forces have entered the market one after another. Su Tong's eyelids suddenly twitched, he sat up from the sofa and stared at the message on the glass in front of him. Godly Golden Diamond. This was something Su Tong didn't expect, and it actually appeared at the auction at this moment. This is a good thing. Yongsuan seems to be particularly fond of this thing. At this moment, his little tail is raised at the entrance of the hall. It seems like someone from the church took action. In the script world of New Territory Abandoning Gods, the people from the church finally came to find him and took out a bag of divine gold diamonds. At that time, there were more than 20 godly gold diamonds in a bag, but now at the auction, there were groups of 5. The starting price actually starts at 1 million script points. This was a total of 30 groups in one breath, and the information almost filled the glass in front of me. It was obvious that he was trying to win by quantity. Profiteer. When Su Tong saw the price, he couldn't help but curse. The price is pretty fair. I'll buy 2 sets. They will always come in handy. Kong Xiaozi took action and directly photographed 2 groups of them. Yan Zioki thought about it for a while, and finally decided to forget it. He is really not rich now. He even comes here to eat and drink, so you can imagine how bloated his pocket is now. Won't you buy some? Seeing that Su Tong and Yan Zioki were indifferent, Blind Man Kong couldn't help but ask. Yan Zioki shook his head, it's useless to me. Su Tong said even more shamelessly, I prefer free sex to paying for it. Haha, you guys. Blind Man Kong shook his head, feeling that the two of them were still too young to look down on such small money. If this thing was resold after the auction, it would be no problem to earn at least 200,000 script points. Soon other top teams started taking action. In addition to divine gold diamonds, specialties such as magic spices, divine bones, super seeds, raw energy stones, pink lizards, etc. were all put up for auction. During this period, Su Tong only made one move, buying a batch of super seeds. Super seed. A rare product synthesized by special genes. When planted, it produces extremely rare inorganic rice. Inorganic rice, those who eat it can quickly recover their physical strength and repair their own muscle damage. Each consumption can increase their strength by 1%. Up to 30% improvement. During this period of time, the dragon rice in my hand is being consumed rapidly. Don't forget that between the virtual and the real, there are more than 3,000 mouths. These more than 3,000 mouths need to eat a lot of food every day. Fortunately, a lot of stored grain was recovered from the grain depot in my Hua village and mixed with dragon rice, so Su Tong was not forced to go back to reality to purchase. But these things will be eaten, and now these super seeds are a good choice. He remembered that Li Bo's natural ability seemed to have the ability to catalyze plants. When the time comes, he would strengthen these seeds and then give them to Li Bo to farm. It should be able to give him the power in a short time. Grow enough food. At this moment, Li Bo had no idea that his future would be to follow Su Tong's idea and start heading in the direction of Shenan, but this was of course a story later. More and more specialty products are beginning to appear, but the effect does not seem to be very good. Similar to reality, most specialties may not even be liked by locals, let alone outsiders. At this time, some flashing fluorescent prop cards appeared on the glass. Exquisite spiritual essence. You can inject spirits into equipment and other props to enhance the prop's own spirituality. The stronger the spirituality, the higher the possibility of the item awakening. The gun gods are taking action. Now Kang Xiaozi and Yan Zioqi both became energetic. The Spear God Group has three major industries: Sangxian Pharmacy, Moonlight Epiphyllum, and Refining Factory. Among them, the refining factory is the most expensive. Players can throw unnecessary prop cards into the factory for refining. After refining, they will get some spiritual essence, which are excellent casting materials. It can increase spell casting skills by 1 level, or even 2 levels. The best spiritual essence can inject spiritual energy into equipment and enhance its spirituality. This kind of essence is often not sold to the outside world, and even they don't have enough of it internally. But now they have put out such a large amount of essence for auction, which shows that they are also determined to win this event. It's just that the things are good, but there are not many people who can buy them. It's not even as effective as the Western God's golden diamond. On the one hand, this thing is too expensive. One set costs 3.3 million script points, and there are only 4. On the other hand, many people are not willing to take a trip into this muddy water. Kang Xiaozi thought about it for a while and felt that it was not a good deal, so he simply didn't buy it, let alone Su Tong. He wanted this thing, and there were ways to get the spear gods to deliver it to them. As for Yan Zioqi, outside he is a fighting god, but here he is a poor man, and a poor man has no human rights here. It seems like the spear gods got off to a bad start. Blind Man Kong looked at the transaction figures and became worried about the gun gods. But soon, all the spiritual essence seemed to be bought up in an instant. In just 10 seconds, the spiritual essence was sold out. Seeing this, the 3 people in the suite were startled, and then they immediately realized something. The gunslingers are planning to lose face this time and play tricks of reselling. Yan Zioqi held his arms in his arms, his face suddenly turned ugly. In front of everyone, the gunsling's operation was completely shameless. The operation was so obvious, wasn't it clear that they were cheating? Aren't the gunslings afraid of being reported for doing this? Do you really think their backstage can protect them? Even the blind man Kang Xiaozi can see the operation, but if you don't believe that everyone can't see it, this is a complete cheating, and it is the most shameless kind. It's clear that something is going to happen. Sure enough, soon, the Western team also started, and a large number of extremely high-priced divine gold diamonds were sold directly. The price is more than 3 times what it was before. Blind Man Kong couldn't sit still. He immediately got up and walked out, and came back after a while. He had just sold the divine gold diamond he bought. After the Western team took it all away in one go, Kong the blind man suddenly became happy. This time, it was a waste of money, but it was the fisherman who benefited, making a net profit of 3 times the price difference. If they do this, won't there be any problem? Su Tong sat aside and frowned. He didn't believe that the gunslingers could be so stupid. After all, he had seen Mr. Zhang's methods before. The old guy was definitely a business wizard. How could such a low-level trick come from him? It's just that the situation is getting more and more chaotic now, and Su Tong can't take action for a while, so he can only wait and see what happens. In just half an hour, the numbers on the points list were getting bigger and bigger. All players could see that the points of the gunslingers, the temple, and the 2 teams were growing at a rocket-like speed. After asking about it, I found out that it could be done in such a cool way, so similar situations began to occur in the following mid-level auctions and low-level auctions. Boss, how can we play with this? How about we try it too? Gu Zibai looked at the beating numbers and couldn't help but widen his eyes. However, Su Tong waved his hand, indicating that he should sit down and wait and see what happens. Based on his understanding of Mr. Zhang, he always felt that this matter was not that simple. Sure enough, before waiting for a while, everyone's prop books in the exhibition all sounded a prompt, ding. In view of the fact that someone will conduct the auction through malicious points brushing, all personnel and teams on the standings who participated in the malicious auction will be punished. Impose the following sanctions. Ding. All those who participated in the malicious auction will no longer be able to participate in this event after being judged. Ding. All points of all participants in the malicious auction will be reset to 0. Ding. All those who participated in the malicious auction will no longer be able to sell items, but they retain the right to bid. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1061. A series of prompts came, making everyone's brain suddenly confused. Who could have imagined that punishment would come so quickly and so harshly? This time, more than half of the originally high-ranking standings were cleared in an instant. Grass. Now even Blind Mankang started to curse, because he also got the reminder that he participated in the malicious bidding, and all his points were cleared. I want to appeal, I want to appeal. Blind Mankang was like a thundering hedgehog. He just took advantage of the high price and auctioned things off, so how could he be classified as a malicious bidder? Su Tong and Yan Zioqi looked at each other, and they felt like they had dodged a disaster. This method is so dirty. Yan Zioqi pouted, suppressing a smile, and cursed. After a little thought, the two of them could deduce that this must be a good show directed and staged by the gunslingers. They knew that they would be punished for doing so, but they still insisted on it, probably just to drag the Western team into trouble. But isn't he afraid that people from the Western camp won't follow? Of course, Su Tong also has doubts in his mind. What if the other party doesn't play this trick with you and reports you? No. If they don't play along, the gunslingers will dare to keep playing like this. Blind Mankang also calmed down and sat down on the sofa with a depressed look on his face. Behind the gun gods are gods. It is said that the gun gods have reached many agreements with the gods. To put it bluntly, he is a lackey supported by the gods. If he dares to play like this, he has someone to back him up. It seems that because of the impact, Blind Mankang naturally has nothing good to say about the spear gods. Isn't it true that the Western camp also has support behind it? Su Tong looked at Blind Mankang and asked. He felt that Blind Mankang seemed to know many unknown inside stories, so he might as well talk to him while he was angry. Hey. So what, it's just wrangling. After all the wrangling, the auction will be over. When the event is over, everyone will continue wrangling. How dare the organizer really withdraw the gunslingers? There is a very famous saying in Chinese communication culture. As long as I'm not the one in trouble, I don't care if the sky collapses or the earth collapses. Dare to be a bad guy, but if you don't have this consciousness, it would be more practical to go home and farm as soon as possible. Therefore, the Western camp must join in the trouble and make the matter bigger, so that the organizers can find a balance point and punish people on both sides. What a bunch of scoundrels! Even Yan Zioqi was choked by these remarks. He felt that the higher up people were, the more they looked like street gangsters. They were not as good as those from all three religions in the world. At least they were honest and honest. Humph, how long have you been promoted? When you live longer in the future, you will find that, let alone players, even those gods, the higher you go, the more dirty you will feel. Blind Mankang crossed his legs, and his cloudy eyes seemed to have already seen through the world. Hey, it's your turn. Isn't this a good opportunity for you? Hurry up, they've finished this move, and it's a blank period. Don't wait for them to react, strike first. Blind Kong seemed to realize that he had talked a bit too much today, and immediately urged Su Tong and Yan Zhaoqi to take action. Su Tong nodded and pressed the button next to the table and chair, and soon someone came in pushing a cart. You really don't think about it? My 20% share is not a small amount, right? Yan Zhaoqi came close to Su Tong and whispered. Su Tong was actually very excited, but he really didn't have that much money. The arena is a chicken that lays golden eggs. Although its ability to make money cannot be compared with Lo Jinfang, it is still very popular. If Yan Zhaoqi hadn't strengthened his superiors and completely shattered the capital chain, he wouldn't have thought of such a stupid move at this time. Well, calling it a coward is too much. After all, no matter who buys the shares, it doesn't matter to Yan Zhaoqi. The arena industry is completely different from other industries. It is because of the god of fighting that the arena exists. To put it bluntly, if Yan Zhaoqi fell out that day and opened a new arena, no one would be angry. Seeing Su Tong's refusal, Yan Zhaoqi had no choice but to throw the 20% share certificate on the plate and let the auction house do its own valuation. Seeing this, Su Tong followed suit and put the treasure teleport beacon that he had put at the bottom of the box on top, and let the auction house estimate it himself. Soon, a new round of auctions began. It's just that this round there are no big teams such as the Gunslingers and the Western Temple. Instead, some unknown second-tier teams began to put out exhibits for auction. At this time, the team in the Western camp became passive. The sudden change caught them off guard because they did not expect the consequences of the punishment to be so serious. What's even more troublesome is that although they have a second-tier team, the second-tier team was not eligible to participate in this auction, and there was no second-tier team around them at all. Someone was asked to pull him out temporarily, but only then did he realize that all the boxes in the lobby on the top floor were full, and there was no spare space at all. Unless they withdraw their own boxes and give them to their second-tier team. But the problem is that it is no joke to leave such a big matter to the second-line team. It's like leaving a large project worth hundreds of millions to a company's interns to handle in real life. The company has the heart but not the courage. This is the real cunningness of the gun gods. The strategy was not clever, but it directly hit the key point of the Western camp. This method must have come from the hands of the chief manager of the spear gods, Mr. Zhang. Damn, let's go. In the suite, Caesar had a gloomy face and slammed the crystal cup in his hand to the ground. Then he stood up and prepared to leave. Are you just leaving like this? The woman next to Caesar looked at him, feeling that it seemed a bit hasty to leave at this time. Otherwise, how about transferring all the team's funds to the second-tier team and then we withdraw? Or are you planning to leave the main team and personally take charge of the second-tier team? To put it bluntly, the second-line team is their team's cannon fodder or slave. Handing over such a large amount of funds, if there is any problem in the second-tier team, it will be a devastating blow to them. As for condescending to be transferred to the second-line team, this is also a solution, but Caesar's pride does not allow him to suffer this humiliation. Seeing this, the woman knew that persuasion had no effect. Just when she was about to stand up and leave, suddenly a golden halo appeared on the glass in front of her. This is a prop card that has been given a very high rating by the 10,000 Worlds Chamber of Commerce, so it will receive special care and such a golden halo. The woman just glanced at the entry, and her whole body stayed there for a moment. Caesar. Everyone stopped. Caesar turned his head and looked at the entry of the item on the glass with confusion. With just one glance, Caesar had a shocked expression on his face. Teleport beacon add 9. What is this? He quickly turned back and read the entry carefully. Soon through the glass, the host below began to show everyone how to use this thing. All you need to do is place a beacon somewhere, and another person will place the beacon at their feet. The next moment, the person will be teleported to another beacon 100 meters away. The host even excitedly introduced that this thing can be used for collective teleportation. Just place 5 beacons in a circle and 6 people can be teleported at once. Not to mention Caesar, people from other top teams were almost shocked. This thing saves a lot of trouble compared to the teleportation array. It is not only simple, but also practical. The most important thing is that this thing does not require a professional warlock to arrange and adjust it in advance. Snatch it, grab it for me. After Caesar was stunned for 5 or 6 seconds, he finally came to his senses and quickly rushed to the glass and pointed at the teleport beacon on the glass. You must take it down. At this moment Caesar was panicking. They dared to invade the script world of the gun gods on a large scale because they were bullying the gun gods because their top combat capabilities were insufficient. In a one-on-one duel, he admitted that he couldn't beat the gunslinger, but there will always be times when you are not around. There are 3 of us here. If you come, I will run, and if you leave, I will continue to kill. So what if he was the master of guns? In the end, he was tricked by them. But if there is a teleport beacon, things will be troublesome. At the same time, gunslinger Buliuan, who was originally chatting and laughing with Mr. Zhang, was disrupted by this sudden change. According to the original plan, after kicking out the Western camp, they would still play left-handed and right-handed, but they would just cooperate with another team, Demon. At that time, the auctioned items and script points can be returned to the original owners. They will exclusively occupy the top 5 in the event, and everyone will share the treasures obtained. However, the appearance of Teleport Beacon instantly shattered their original plan. After seeing the entry for this thing and how to use it, even the gun god Buliuan couldn't sit still. Grab it, snatch it back for me no matter what. Mr. Zhang, what do you think of this thing? Buliuan looked back at Mr. Zhang, who had a grimace on his face. I told you, that guy is not a cheap guy, but I didn't expect him to come here and interfere. Teleport beacon add 9. No one else knew where this thing came from, but how could the spear gods not know it? One look at the add 9 at the back and you know it must be from Lo Jinfang. I wanted to get the rewards from this event and talk to this guy, but it seems difficult now. Mr. Zhang finally figured it out. After this battle, Lo Jinfang became more and more powerful, and it might not be that easy to deal with him again. Mr. Zhang was filled with regret at this moment. If he had not been worried about the 100 million script points and the consumption of crystal badges earlier, and went directly to consult the heavenly book, he might have made plans and layouts for Lo Jinfang earlier. It's really one wrong step after another. From now on, it may be difficult for the gun gods to dominate the exhibition. But regret is of no use anymore. The bidding numbers are beating like crazy at this moment. When Su Tong, Gu Zibai and Chang Wogu saw that the number had reached 50 million in an instant and was even approaching the 60 million mark, their mouths almost burst into laughter. It is estimated that this time it is just a dividend, and each of them can get almost tens of millions of script points. 10 million script points, that is to say, even if everyone strengthens their pants to add 9, there will be no problem. Thinking that this thing only costs 400,000 yuan, no. Because these are all Master's original inventory, things he made using other team resources. After Master joined the team, he contributed all of it, so the cost he paid for this thing was only the cost of strengthening it. After that, Su Tong couldn't help but take a hard puff on the cigarette rod in his hand. He couldn't help but he started swearing, 1,000 times the profit, the most profitable thing is to be a profiteer. There will be no more updates tonight, please go to bed early. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1062. As a businessman, what is the most profitable? The answer is simple, monopoly. Any industry that forms a monopoly will become huge profits. Just like the strengthening ability of Lo Jinfang, it is a complete monopoly transaction. Even if others are extremely jealous, there is nothing you can do about it. What's more, Su Tong's timing was really good. At any other time, this thing wouldn't have been sold at such a high price. Even if I go to the Gun Gods group in advance and are willing to sell to them directly, the price will still be around 60 million. This price still refers to the prices of those large teleportation arrays in the Western camp. But at this important juncture, the Western camp is absolutely unwilling to see this kind of thing fall into the hands of the Gun Gods. They are raising the price crazily, raising the price at any cost. As a result, the price of this teleportation array began to skyrocket, reaching an extremely exaggerated level. Su Tong's move was really bad. 95 million. 98 million. 100000000. When he heard this number, Su Tong almost fainted with excitement. Did happiness come so suddenly? Not to mention Su Tong, even the auctioneer's legs were trembling. No more pictures. Zhang Lao held Buelyuan's hand tightly. We can't shoot anymore. We only have a total of 200 million reserves. In addition, the refining factory will be shut down first. How can we practice the elixirs in Sangxian Pharmacy? Don't forget to download it months. Our station still has a resident fund of 40 million, we can't add more. Zhang Lao calculated the accounts for Buelyuan one by one, and then shot again. Maybe he could win, but what happens after he wins? How can the entire Gun God group be maintained? It is said that a big family has a big business, but everyone ignores the staggering expenses behind it. If it weren't for Mr. Zhang, a business wizard, who was maintaining the operation of the entire Gunsling group, how could he have such a huge family fortune? Faced with Mr. Zhang's words, Gunslinger Buelyuan, who was decisive in killing and daring to negotiate with the gods, was also in a dilemma. Just when Buelyuan was upset, the countdown to the auction had ended. Seeing this, Buelyuan's expression flickered, and when he was about to turn around and leave, the host in charge of the bidding suddenly said, "Wait." The bidder's temple was unable to raise enough funds at the moment, and the last round of bidding was invalid. Congratulations to the gunslingers for winning this round of auctions with 98 million script points. Buelyuan and others were stunned, not expecting this result. I'm reporting this guy for maliciously raising the price. All the members of the Gun Gods group were instantly upset. After doing this for a long time, you have no money. If you don't have money, why are you acting like a boss? Snapped. Meng Changsheng kicked the glass in front of him to pieces, and stared at the host with gloomy eyes. The price just now is not included, we demand a reshoot. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression changed. Su Tong's face darkened and he stood up from the sofa. Damn it, can't you afford it? Let me reshoot. Your Uncle Guzibai's temper suddenly rose. Is he trying to act like a monkey? I was immediately ready to kick open the glass and go out to curse. Do not impulse. Fortunately, blind Mankang saw this and hurriedly stopped in front, indicating that they should wait and see what happens. Su Tong had a dark face. If he really wanted to reshoot, he would immediately leave with the teleportation array. The host was almost crying now. If something goes wrong in such a large amount transaction, not only will your job be lost, you may even lose your life. Fortunately, Mr. Zhang realized that something was wrong and hurriedly stopped Meng Changsheng and called the person in charge of the organizer. After a round of negotiations, the person in charge hurried out and announced the results to everyone. The Gun Gods agreed to accept the bidding at a price of 98 million. In view of the temple's malicious price increase, part of the temple's deposit will be deducted to subsidize the Gun Gods. After hearing this result, Su Tong was relatively satisfied. The only regret is that I was not able to increase the profit by 10,000 times. This is a big regret, and I estimate that I will never have such an opportunity in the future. B content, 98 million. I, Blind Kong, have never seen so many scripts distributed in so many years. As he spoke, Blind Man Kong waved his hand. Let's go, remember to pick up your things. After finishing speaking, Blind Man Kong stood up and walked out of the box. Yan Zioki stood up, watched Blind Man Kong leave, and then said with a strange expression, "Why are you so familiar with him?" "We are familiar, but I can't say we are very familiar. My master almost killed his father. In terms of seniority, we are equal." As soon as Su Tong said this, Yan Zioki couldn't hold back anymore and gave Su Tong a thumbs up. "Then you are really awesome." "What? Brother Yan, does this blind man have a great origin?" Chang Liuja stepped forward and asked softly. Su Tong and Gu Zibai also pricked up their ears. They could both see that Yan Zioki seemed to be a little afraid of Blind Man Kong. Yan Zioki looked at them with a strange expression. "You don't know who he is?" The three of them shook their heads. Now even Yan Zioki was slapping his forehead and shouting that this was outrageous. 6 regiments, 2 gods, and 8 evils. 3 independents, 5 elders, and 4 respects. After saying that, he pointed out the window in the direction of the gun gods, and then pointed outside the door. "Gun gods, gambling gods, aren't they all the same? God of gamblers." Su Tong and the three of them exclaimed in unison, especially Su Tong, who couldn't help but think of the first time he and Blind Kong met. Blind Man Kong told him that he was the god of gamblers. But I had the wrong idea at the time. After all, the person who walked up to the rooftop, the one who never boasted that he was a god of gambling, still managed to defeat the Brazilian team in the end. But Su Tong really didn't expect that this old blind man was actually one of the 2 gods as famous as the gun god. "Hey, I really made a mistake." Su Tong patted his forehead and felt a loss of blood instantly. If he had known that this guy was the god of gambling, he should have put forward more conditions. The words have reached this level. As the saying goes, one thing is worth 2 things, so Su Tong simply asked for clarification. 6 regiments, 2 gods, and 8 evils. 3 dus, 5 elders, and 4 directions. He knew the 6 regiments: Gunshan Regiment, Baidu, Daman, Fan Mai Mountain, Momin, and Sharks. Sandu, no, now it has been renamed Urdu. A death knell, a cold drum. The 8 great evils can leave them alone. But who are the 5 elders and the Sifangzan? I still don't know, so I'd better ask. Gu, Zhou, Huan, Tai, and Shang are the 5 directors of the script studio. They may look very young, but they have white hair and eyebrows, so they are called the 5 elders. Hearing what Yan Zioki said, Su Tong was relieved. It turned out that Wu Lao meant this. As for the Sifangzan, I haven't actually seen it. There are many rumors saying that they are 4 sages, and some say they are 4 square weapons. It is even a bit exaggerated to say that they are 1 person, called Sifang. When Yan Zioki talked about Sifangzan, he was also confused because there was such a saying when he became a certified player. I have also asked people who are more senior than me, but they have different opinions on this, and I have no chance to verify it. I even asked Gu among the 5 elders, but he avoided talking about it, as if he was very taboo about talking about it, so let alone Su Tong, even Yan Zioki didn't know what the Sifangzan was. But these 3 words cannot be groundless. Since it was something passed down from a long time ago, there must be a reason. Perhaps it is because it is too mysterious that it was incorporated into this jingle. Su Tong and the other 3 looked like this. Although they were very curious, since even Yan Zioki didn't know the origin of Sifangzan, they shouldn't worry about it. Next was the auction of Yan Zioki's 20% equity. Although the bidding price was high, there were not many bidders. In the end, only 40 million was bid and the price was traded. The price almost made Yan Zioki cry and faint in the toilet. In fact, This price is not too low. 40 million script points to purchase 20% of his equity is already considered an extremely high price. After all, not everyone can have such a huge financial reserve like the spear gods. It's just that this price is indeed a little less than Su Tong's teleportation beacon. After the auction, Yan Zioqi said goodbye to Su Tong. He was still in a hurry to go back and pay his employees. Boss, Wu Ji and I went together. If you need anything, just call us. Gu Zibai and Chang Wogu followed Yan Zioqi back to the arena. Those who didn't know better thought they were from Yan Zioqi's team. Fortunately, the two of them were enjoying themselves in the arena, and their strength improved very quickly, which finally gave Su Tong some comfort. Su Tong is not in a hurry to leave, he hasn't eaten yet. I specially had a delicious meal at the auction of Wanja Trading Company. Looking at the standings, Su Tong was already grinning from ear to ear. Because he participated anonymously, only the highest points were displayed on the standings without his name. Of course, if Su Tong is willing, he can change a name on it and hang it at will. 98 million points is really disappointing. Looking at the blank name, Su Tong casually changed a line of text and sent it, advertising space for rent. Good guy, this made all the players in the exhibition speechless. But this also makes people curious about what exactly was auctioned for such a high price. Because this auction is not a top secret, anyone who is interested can find out by asking. Teleport beacon. This thing is also the first time it has appeared in front of the public. However, the add 9 enhanced number at the back feels extremely familiar to many people. It reminds me of the props sold by Lo Jinfang not long ago, flying paper. Suddenly a terrible thought appeared in everyone's mind. Lo Jinfang can also strengthen prop cards. Some people had doubts about this idea when Fiazi was released, and now this suspicion has been further confirmed. This time everyone was shocked. So much so that even Su Tong was shocked when he returned to Lo Jinfang carrying the packed meals. I saw that the door of Lo Jinfang was already surrounded by people. Fortunately, the rules of the exhibition did not allow the use of force, otherwise Su Tong would have thought that this group bought it for 0 yuan. I could only run back through the back door in despair. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Aimee holding her cheek and settling accounts with a grimace. Seeing Su Tong come back, she casually took out a stack of invitations and threw them to him. Su Tong picked it up and took a look, and roared, "What a guy, there are many of them from Daman, Shark, Fan Mai Mountain, Momen, and Baidu." Looking at the people outside the door, Su Tong instantly felt like Alexander. Sometimes making too much money seems to be a painful thing. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1063. There are too many people outside the door who want to come to Lo Jinfang to confirm the equipment enhancement. Especially the top teams. They do not lack money or resources, but they only lack channels to improve their strength. Once your strength reaches a certain level, it is very difficult to take further steps. Relying on a massive amount of resources will only have minimal effect. After all, no matter how many prop cards there are, the core ability is only those few. No matter how many resources there are, it is useless if they cannot be used up. The most painful thing is when someone dies and the money is not spent. The most painful thing for them now is to guard the gold and silver mountains, but they are too slow to convert these resources into strength. Therefore, the appearance of Lo Jinfang immediately aroused their great curiosity. They felt that if the props could be strengthened, they wouldn't mind spending some money to strengthen them. Of course, it doesn't matter if you can't. We can also talk about teleport beacon. These rich people think so, and they really want to be simple. But now, except for the gun gods and Yan Zioqi, few people truly understand how terrifying the huge improvement brought by enhanced equipment is. Of course, the level of money burning will probably give them a new understanding of their financial resources. The exhibition activities were not over yet, and Su Tong was not in a hurry to open the door for business at this hour and a half, so he simply stayed closed and decided to wait until the event was over. At this time, the most important thing is to work steadily. There is endless money to be made. Early the next morning, Su Tong came to No Return Spring. He took out the keycard Kang Xiaozi gave him and found the last hot spring villa in Bagui Hot Spring. As soon as you enter the door, you can see the steam rising. Blind man Kang is soaking in the hot spring, squinting and enjoying it. Seeing Su Tong come in, he simply invited Su Tong to take a dip together. You came at the right time. Let's try it together. You can only take a dip in this spring once a month. Facing blind Kang's warm invitation, Su Tong was not polite. He took off his clothes and walked in, which was regarded as treating him sincerely. You are not very interesting. It turns out that you are the one who runs Lo Jinfang. Su Tong didn't even sit down before blind man Kang started to complain. You didn't tell me that you are one of the two gods. Su Tong rolled his eyes and picked up the towel and put it on his face. As soon as he said this, blind Kang was unhappy. I told you when we met that I am the god of gamblers. If you don't believe it, what can I do? Yes, brother is right, comfortable. Su Tong stretched himself in the hot spring and felt that all the bones in his body were brittle. This spring was really extraordinary. His immortal body was soaking in it, and he felt that a large amount of life essence was entering through his pores. This is not a hot spring, it is clearly the same treasure liquid as Lei Ji Yi. The things are ready for you, but what about your Lo Jinfang's strengthening ability? I'd like to ask on behalf of my old friends, please. Blind Kang obviously wanted to get an accurate explanation from Su Tong today. The relationship between the two is actually good. In addition, Kang Xiaozi's father is Chu Zhao, and he has dealt with him before. Although it is not a pleasant process, it will inevitably give people the feeling of meeting an old friend in a foreign land. After all, the inheritance of both of them comes from that chaotic old era. If it works or not, you can try it. Su Tong would not say much on this issue, but his words revealed sufficient confidence. This time, even the blind man Kang was a little unsure. While the two were talking, blind Kang glanced at the time. It's almost time. After the words fell, the entire exhibition was trembling, and the exhibition that was originally merged gradually split again. The time for this event has ended. But thinking about it, the organizer probably felt like crying when the event turned out like this. Su Tong also got the prompt from the prop book at this time. Ding! Congratulations on ranking first in points in this event and getting the special treasure Industrial Empire. This result is not surprising. Of course, Su Tong still wanted to say, thank you to the gunslingers, and thank you to the Western veterans for their support. Fame and fortune were both gained, this time with blood. Su Tong was so excited that he wanted to run naked and dance on the spot, but considering that blind Kang was an old and ugly blind man, Su Tong gave up the idea. Let's go. Lo Jinfang will open tomorrow. I welcome you to come and support me in person. After saying that, Su Tong jumped out of the spring, took the precious medicinal materials he needed, put on his clothes and hurried home. On the way, Su Tong issued instructions one after another through the team channel. Let Chang Wahen and Gu Zibai come back as soon as possible and prepare for dividends. Ask Li Bo to come back with the prop cards he acquired. Su Tong took advantage of this moment to quickly return to reality. I went to shout to Gao Zhou and Master and let them enter the exhibition immediately. When I came back, I took the stage with me to Lo Jinfang. Gao Zhou agreed readily, but Master screamed repeatedly, "Oh my god, these bastards are crazy." Su Tong's heart skipped a beat, and he didn't know what happened to Master, but fortunately after a while, Master replied, "I have entered the script museum and will enter the exhibition immediately." Hearing this, Su Tong felt relieved. After re-entering the exhibition, Master began to complain crazily to Su Tong as soon as he returned to Lo Jinfang. God, those bastards want to kill me. Are they crazy? They don't even care about the camera. I almost had my head chopped off by them. Master was confused, he didn't even know what happened. As a result, he was hunted down for no apparent reason. If it hadn't been for the purple sky divine thunder talisman that Su Tong gave him, as well as a wave of enhanced prop cards, he would have almost died. Even when I ran into the script hall, they didn't let me go. Fortunately, when I entered the exhibition, my team was in the Huaxia district, so I was transferred to the Huaxia district exhibition. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of things I would face next. Trouble. Su Tong quickly comforted this cash cow from the west. I probably already figured out what was going on. The teleportation beacon definitely caught everyone's attention this time. Although the distance during the demonstration was only about 100 meters, that was just a demonstration, and the real range was very vast. Theoretically, as long as the teleportation beacon is in a scenario world, it can be teleported across continents. If the distance is really too far, you can set up a transfer point in the middle, but it's just a matter of adding an extra beacon. The appearance of this kind of thing is enough to change the situation of the war. The Western camp will definitely investigate this matter when they return, and Master's teleport beacon has been studied by teleporters from other teams before. In addition, he had joined some large teams before, so if he went back and asked, he could quickly find Master's information. Fortunately, Master went back early and had nothing to worry about. He packed up his things and took notes on his experiences before returning. If it were delayed any longer, this guy might really have no chance of coming back alive. It was my negligence. Su Tong looked a little guilty. He only thought about making money and earning points, but he ignored Master, which almost made this guy jealous of Yingke. Everyone was watching, but Gao Zhou didn't come back. Unexpectedly, he was the slowest one. Everyone waited for a long time, but Gao Zhuokai arrived late. I really have a baby, I forgot about my brother. Gu Zibai started to tease. There are not many players who can succeed. You are better than us at this point. I heard that the boss has been adopted as his godfather. How about recognizing a few more? Li Bo also followed suit. Go, 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 where? I can't explain it to you. Gao Zhou waved his hand, unable to explain. But Su Tong noticed that the corpse energy on this guy was frighteningly large. It is said that after practicing the eldest princess reversal of life and death, this guy should be more like a living person. Why did the corpse energy on his body get so much worse? Thinking of this, Su Tong pulled Gao Zhou and asked in a low voice, "You have so much corpse energy, don't tell me that you went and dumped your ancestral graves." "Hey, how do you know?" Gao Zhou was startled and looked at Su Tong blankly. Su Tong looked as if this was the case and kicked Gao Zhou on the butt. "Did you really dig up your ancestral grave?" When Gao Tianfang took him to that place, he said that he would not tell him about the ancestral tomb until Gao Zhou had a child. That's why I thought of this, but I didn't expect Gao Zhou to actually dig his own grave. "Hey, you misunderstood me." Gao Zhou hurriedly explained, "How dare I have such an idea? It's just that I invited the ancestors out, walked around, and let them move around." Su Tong rolled his eyes at this guy and thought that Gao Tianfang must not let Gao Tianfang know about this, otherwise he would have to skin Gao Zhou. "Okay, let's talk about family matters later. Let's share the dividends first." This time it was Taiwan's turn to be anxious. The profit figure this time was so amazing, even if he only held 25% of the shares, it was still an astonishing figure. Aimee picked up the account book and started flipping the abacus, and soon the profit figures came out. The revenue from flying paper and elixirs is 4.04 million. Excluding the 2 million R/U0026D expenses spent by Master, plus the 26 million for the reinforcement of the Spear God Regiment, the profit from this auction is 98 million. Throw away the salary deductions for the 5 of us. The profit during this period was 126 million. Upon hearing this number, everyone gasped, except for Gao Zhou and Master, who looked at a loss. I have no idea what happened, but that's not important. What's important is that after throwing away Taiwan's 25% bonus, their team directly earned nearly 100 million script points. This number was too astonishing. They counted it on their fingers and realized that everyone could get a share. Tens of millions of scripts were shared, and they couldn't help but breathe quickly. Everyone's eyes turned green now, and they all stared at Su Tong like wolf cubs waiting to be fed. This time, they weren't strengthened enough to fly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1064. The next step is to divide the money. Tai was very generous this time and set aside a small portion of his dividends so that Su Tong and the others could collect 100 million. After all, he was making money, so of course he was happy to do favors. However, 100 million script points sounds like a lot, but in fact, when the 6 members of the team divide it equally, 16 million each. Comparing this number with 100 million, a strong sense of disparity immediately arises. But everyone was still very happy. The amount of dividends this time was 10 times more than last time. Boss, I don't have this much money. Master looked at the script assigned to him. After a moment of confusion, his eyes were filled with emotion. Other teams, apart from necessary research funds, would hardly allocate other resources to him. But Su Tong still gave the money to Master, and he gave him the same amount as everyone else. This shows that Su Tong really treats him as one of his own, rather than a so-called tool. So after thinking about it, Master decided to return the money. But as soon as he said this idea, he was severely reprimanded by Su Tong. Take it back, you are insulting me. Me. Master did not expect that his kindness would be scolded so harshly by Su Tong, and his face turned red for a moment. Seeing this, Su Tong could only slow down his tone, and reached out to pat Master's shoulder. You are a member of the team, a core member. In addition to the research and development funds, you deserve this money, unless you don't recognizing you as a member of our team. To put it bluntly, this money was earned by Master's teleport beacon. Although Su Tong's operation and the blessing of Lo Jinfang were involved, Master was the foundation. As Tai said, he found a treasure. How could he treat such a talent poorly? Seeing that Master didn't know what to say, Su Tong immediately grinned. You are the god of wealth of our team, so you must take this money. Su Tong even said such clear words. What else could Master say? He just felt that happiness came too quickly, like a hungry beggar who suddenly had a piece of steak stuffed into his throat. A sudden soreness hit the bridge of his nose, making Master, who had been wandering around among the players for a while, clenched his fists with excitement and opened his mouth wide, but he didn't know what to say. What is good? In the end, I could only shout with tears in my eyes, yes. Captain. Ha ha ha. Everyone burst into laughter, gathered around and patted Master on the shoulder. To get Su Tong's approval was to get approval from all of them. We made 100 million this time, but this is just the beginning. Starting tomorrow, we will liberalize and strengthen the market. I guarantee that next is when we will really make money. We will let everyone get involved. Roll it up. The crowd's excited screams made everyone feel as excited as if they had been given a shot of blood. What's rolled up? Outside Lo Jinfang, those who were still waiting in line heard shouts in the room in a daze. Some people looked at their companions in confusion. The companion behind him scratched his head. Maybe they are eating leeks rolled with green onions, right? On the second day of the exhibition, the event had ended and most of the stores had opened their doors. There was still a long queue outside the door of Lo Jinfang, and these people never left. After all, things like flying paper are still very popular and in short supply. The last time they were sold, they were only sold for a few days before the event happened, so many people wanted to buy them but couldn't get them. Now that the event is over, everyone rushed here immediately, hoping to buy the flying paper prop card. But before Lo Jinfang opened, a large number of prop cards suddenly leaked out of the exhibition. These prop cards are all low-level prop cards without exception, and many of them are prop cards that have been eliminated by people like them. What's even weirder is that the prices of these prop cards are extremely high. More than 10 times higher than the market price. Is this a headache? Selling low-level prop cards in a high-end exhibition area, and the price is still so high. Some people started to laugh. I think this may be someone's wishful thinking. Do you think everyone in the high-end exhibition area is a fool? But when people saw these familiar prop cards, they were instantly stunned by the entries on them. No, these prop cards are wrong. Yes, the attributes of this Bagua glove are not that high. I remember that there are no active skills at all and only one passive skill. Why are there 3 of them? Look, I remember that dagger very clearly. It only has 2 passives. Why are there 4 passives and 2 active skills? No, the original 2 passive skills have been strengthened so much. It's better than what I have. Everything is fine. Everyone was stunned and felt like they were dazzled. Although these prop cards were ordinary items, their attribute entries were too strong. Even the entries of some of the best prop cards were stronger than those of high-end prop cards. No, look at the names of these prop cards. There is an extra symbol. When everyone took a look, it turned out to be true. Without exception, these prop cards have the words Add 6 on the back, and a small part of them still have Add 9. This seems to be the same as the one behind the flying paper. Are the rumors true and can it really be strengthened? These are strengthened items. People who reacted have already started buying like crazy. The entries for these prop cards all appeared on the information board above the head of the exhibition. Everyone acted very quickly. Before some people could recover, all the prop cards were plundered. Just when those who were slow to start were still hating their own slowness and incompetence, Lo Jinfang opened for business. Su Tong strode out of Lo Jinfang. Everyone, thank you for your love for Lo Jinfang these days. Therefore, starting from today, Lo Jinfang has added a new business and opened up the strengthening channel. You can entrust the prop cards in your hands. Provide enhanced services to Lo Jinfang. With that said, someone put up a sign. There was a line of large characters written clearly on the sign. The success probability of strengthening levels 1 to 6 is 100%. In addition to the strengthening fee, you also need to pay a bottle of blessing oil for strengthening levels 6 to 9, otherwise, success is not guaranteed. In addition to this sentence, the strengthening cost calculation method for each level is also specially marked below the brand. Su Tong also deliberately hung 3 identical prop cards in the hall, but one was not enhanced, one was enhanced by Add 6 and one was enhanced by Add 9. The 3 prop cards were put together for comparison. This is not as good as not knowing, and you will be shocked when you compare it. The higher the degree of enhancement, the more terrifying the increase. Especially the Add 6 enhancement and the Add 9 enhancement are not on the same level at all. As for the prop cards without enhancement, they are even more incomparable. They look like garbage no matter how you look at them. Now, everyone who had been queuing up suddenly rushed into Lo Jinfang like crazy. Jixiang, Aimei, Amoda, and even Dia all started helping out at the front desk. The process is very simple. You only need to place the enhanced prop card on the teleport beacon and it will be transferred directly to the basement enhancement room. But at this moment, In the strengthening room, there are 3 more strengthening furnaces that look like fantasy Rubik's cubes. This is the merit of Kijhan Industrial Empire, which can be embedded in the industry and replicate the core technology of the industry. The effect is almost exactly the same, but the copied fantasy Rubik's cube cannot be taken out of Lojinfang. As for the number of copies, it can actually be controlled, but each additional copy requires 1 million script points. And it requires renewal every 3 quarters. Considering that their current manpower is insufficient, Su Tong can only make 2 copies temporarily. In addition to Master doing research and seizing the time to make the teleport beacon, everyone else jumped into the fray and started working their shifts. Especially when he made a fortune, he directly transformed into a tentacle monster, one of which was equivalent to 2. His excellent performance made Su Tong decide that no matter what, he would specially refine a batch of top-level elixirs for him and upgrade him. Because the market has been opened up, Su Tong has made special adjustments to the enhanced fees, so the fees are not high. Ordinary prop cards only add a small fee to the cost of the first level enhancement. They belong to the series of small profits but quick turnover. For advanced prop cards, it's even simpler. Just add a 0 after the first level enhancement fee. After all, he is recognized as a conscientious businessman. As a result, many players claimed that half their lives were lost after calculating their own enhancement fees. The enhancement fee alone is enough to buy another prop card. But when he saw other players who had completed strengthening running happily towards the direction of the arena, he finally gritted his teeth, stamped his feet, and chose to strengthen. Although everyone was cursing and stamping their feet when paying, when they got the newly released prop cards, they were as happy as a child. After the 6 major teams learned the news, they hurriedly sent people over to strengthen it. I thought that strengthening would only cost a little money. But after the actual calculation, the cost of strengthening is ridiculously high, especially when it is necessary to use blessing oil to increase the success rate of strengthening to add 9, the cost is even more exaggerated. However, some people did get the blessing oil to strengthen it for the first time, and the effect after strengthening was indeed more powerful than expected. However, when other teams started frantically looking for blessing oil, something depressing happened. Blessing oil prices skyrocketed. The gun gods even opened a temporary shop to sell blessing oil. Strange, when did the gun gods produce blessing oil? You don't even know this. Fan My Mountain sold a piece of the script world where the blessing oil is produced to the gun gods a long time ago. Oh, so that's it? But wasn't the Guinianding pharmacy in Fan My Mountain squeezed out of the exhibition by the gun gods? Why are you still so kind? Maybe it's because they have a strong relationship. Iron. If not. Ha 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 ha. The melon eaters laughed tacitly while buying blessing oil. It is said that after the leader and abbot of Fan My Mountain learned the news, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He suffered heavy losses, and secondly, the most important thing was that he lost all his face. I'm afraid that when people mention Fan My Mountain in the future, they will probably shout in their hearts, "I've been taken advantage of." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1065. The improvement effect brought about by strengthening is simply ridiculously strong. But the level of money burning is also terrifying. The first level 1-6 enhancements are acceptable to everyone, but the subsequent level 7-9, the cost of each level of enhancement makes people's hearts beat and their intestines twitch. But what Su Tong didn't expect was that the first ones to get involved were not the top teams, but rather the ordinary certified players. These players do not have strong funds, but if they focus on strengthening a prop card, they will have no problem, and the amplification effect brought by a add 9 prop card is also powerful, visible to the naked eye. The gap between these ordinary certified players is not big in itself, but if they have a power-up card, the gap will instantly increase. As soon as a large number of players got the news, they brought script points and blessing oil to strengthen it. There are even third and second tier team members among the 6 regiments. So much so that Su Tong and the others have been extremely busy these days, and even Ame is complaining, asking him to find a way to recruit more guys, otherwise it will be like this every day and they won't have to do anything. Su Tong had no choice but to ask Mr. Tai for help. After all, you are a shareholder, so you can't take 25% of the dividend for nothing, not if you don't work. Fortunately, Taiwan had a lot of ideas. He found a group of goblins for Su Tong. These goblins were not the ugly and small little guys in the West, but earth elves. He is not tall, but he looks honest and cute. With a plump appearance, at first glance, he might have thought he was a group of dwarfs. These little guys are definitely good at work and learn quickly. Their consciousness is shared by the group, so if you teach one, the other goblins will immediately understand how to operate it, and they can quickly get started in less than a day. This finally gave Su Tong and others some time to breathe after working hard for several days. Take the brothers to a restaurant to have a good meal together and give everyone a holiday so that they can strengthen and rest when they should. Su Tong could also take advantage of this time to refine a batch of elixirs to heal Daya's injuries. With the medicinal materials provided by Blind Mankang and the assistance of the elixir, the process of refining the elixir was naturally smooth. It's just that the special passive of Heaven's blessing was not activated by God's hand, so the elixir failed to reach the 9th level, which was a pity. After taking this pill, Daya's injuries began to recover at a faster pace, and it seemed that it would not take long for her to recover. As soon as Su Tong gave Daya the pill, Chang Wuji's voice came from the team channel, "Boss, the gunslingers have won." "What?" Su Tong was startled at first, and then realized that what Chang Wuhan was talking about should be about the war between the spear gods and the Western camp. In fact, this result is not surprising, after all, plus the teleport beacon from the auction, the enhancement of the prop cards of the team members, and the enhancement of the gun god Buliuan's own prop cards. Back and forth, the gunslingers had at least spent almost 200 million script points on them. Such a huge number cannot be wasted. Improving strength will inevitably bring about huge changes. Therefore, Su Tong was not surprised by the victory of the gun gods. On the contrary, if they could not win, it can only be said that the gun gods were hopeless. However, Su Tong still called 404 to pick up the elves and asked about the news about the gun gods. The results surprised him. Not only did the gun god group win, gun god Buliuan even completed the feat of killing gods, killing 2 top masters with god-level titles in the Western camp. Although the cost is also heavy. It is said that 3 core members of the gun gods died, and deputy leader Meng Changsheng was almost disabled. As for the second-line team, the casualties were even more tragic. Except for a few lucky players, all other players were killed. It can be said that after this battle, the Spear God Regiment lost nearly 80% of its combat effectiveness. The fighting was so brutal that it was almost unprecedented. It can be called the biggest casualty in player history. However, the Western camp suffered more heavy losses. It is difficult to estimate the specific casualties. However, 2 god-level powerful men from the Western camp were killed. The temple headed by the Western camp suffered heavy casualties. It is said that even the deputy commander was shot dead by Buliuan. Caesar was seriously injured and fled. This time it is estimated that the entire Western camp will be greatly shaken. Now, while people are shocked by the huge casualties in this battle, they are even more shocked by the strength of gunslinger Buliuan. The Western camp suffered a disastrous defeat this time precisely because of their strong self-confidence. 3 against 1, Buliuan had absolutely no chance of winning, but the result was beyond their expectations. With the blessing of 7 prop cards enhanced to add 9, Buliuan's strength was greatly enhanced. Climbed at least 2 steps. As soon as the 3 of them fought, they were instantly crushed by Buliuan's strength. In the end, the war ended in a disastrous defeat with 1 casualty and 2 deaths. When someone revealed that Buluan's strength increased precisely because of Lo Jinfang's enhanced abilities, the 5 major teams went crazy. Lo Jinfang's profit immediately showed explosive growth that day. Especially those high-level prop cards. Even if it is only enhanced to add 6, each one brings nearly 3 million profits to Lo Jinfang. That's right, 3 million. Taking the Pure Yang sword as an example, the basic strengthening fee is 5,000, and strengthening it to level 6 requires 315,000. But when it comes to the enhancement fee for high-level prop cards, AMA usually adds a 0 after the level 1 enhancement fee. Then the cost became 3.15 million. The net profit is nearly 3 million, so you can imagine how profitable this business is. This is Su Tong's strategy. You can strengthen them, and you can make less money with basic prop cards, but you must make them bleed for advanced prop cards. As for whether it is powerful or not, you will know by looking at Gunslinger Buluan. With him as a walking billboard, Su Tong couldn't believe that these landlords and wealthy people were unwilling to spend money. This fee made other super teams hate it. When they strengthened to add 9, they really realized how ridiculous the money-burning extent of Lo Jinfang was. But all the resentment can't stand up to the strengthened law of true fragrance. Apart from the physical pain, he could only vent all his grievances on the arena, hoping to take this opportunity to challenge Yan Zioki. But they didn't know that Yan Zioki had strengthened his gloves to a level of add 12. After leaving, all they got in exchange was a blast from Yan Zioki. In the blink of an eye, 4 quarters were over, and Su Tong and the others finally received their second dividend. This time, everyone got a share of the dividend. Nearly 30 million script points almost made them so happy. Looking at the number of more than 40 million in the prop book, Su Tong finally felt a little excited in his heart. He had been waiting for too long. If the speed of time in the exhibition was not different from that in the outside world, the money would probably not be collected until the end of the next scenario world. Taking the money, Su Tong turned around and plunged into the strengthening room. Come to the Dream Demon Palace and take out the Pure Yang sword. The sword shone with a layer of dazzling silver. After Su Tong held it in his hand, it shone brightly. Su Tong took a deep breath and put the sword into the fantasy Rubik's Cube. Ding! Do you want to spend 2.56 million script points to strengthen this item to level 10? Warning! There is a 40% chance of strengthening failure. Once the strengthening fails, the item is at risk of breaking. When it is strengthened to level 9, it only requires 1.28 million script points. At this moment, the price doubles, and the probability of failure increases from the original 30% to 40%. Seeing this, Su Tong took out the blessing oil and sprinkled it on the Chunyang sword. The golden blessing oil stained the back of the sword, immediately covering it with a light golden color. At the same time, you will receive the special bonus of blessing add 1. Throw it into the fantasy Rubik's Cube again, and the probability of failure to strengthen this time has indeed dropped to 30%. It turns out that the so-called offsetting the probability of failure is to use the increase of blessing oil to offset it. Su Tong continued to pour blessing oil on the blade of the sword, not feeling distressed at all. He had plenty of it anyway, and he didn't need to spend any money. For each layer poured, the blessing effect increases by 1. Su Tong enhanced the blessing effect to add 4. After strengthening it again, the failure rate prompt disappeared. Strengthen. With a dazzling light, the Pure Yang sword finally broke through the add 10 bottleneck, but Su Tong was not satisfied and repeated the operation to continue strengthening. 5.12 million script points add 11. 10.24 million script points add 12. 20.48 million script points add 13. After Su Tong burned 38.4 million script points in one breath, finally, the Pure Yang sword in front of him had turned into something unfamiliar even to him. The sword body, which was originally as white as jade, now has a black ridge. The sword body is swung, and the black and white halo contaminates the air with smoke like an ink painting. Su Tong just held the sword in his hand, and it felt extremely heavy, as if he was holding a mountain in his hand. If this sword wasn't connected to his mind, he might even be a bit unable to control it. Su Tong immediately called out the props book and tried to put the sword into the props book. Ding! This item is unprecedented, please name it first. The Pure Yang sword is not unique, but the sword in front of you has surpassed the Pure Yang sword and become an unprecedented weapon. Such weapons are very rare. For example, the Gun God's magic gun belongs to this kind of unprecedented magic weapon. Therefore, his strengthening cost will be very high. Su Tong stroked the blade of the sword with his fingers and looked at the rippling black and white light marks on the blade. Pure Yang is originally like jade, but the world is like ink. Thank you for accompanying me in this place. Since that's the case, I'll call you Mo Ran. Buzz. The sword trembled slightly and made a light sound, as if it was very happy with Su Tong's new name. In the prop book, this prop card finally appeared, with an orange gold border and a pure white background. Only the sword hung in it, with smoke like ink rippling around it. Ink die add 13, soulbound item, cannot be traded, cannot be discarded. The body is pure yang, and the sword is like a pen. Shinyo's painting is a masterpiece of genius. Holder, all swordsmanship skills are increased by 5 levels. Passive skill 1, Yang pole generates yin. The extreme of yang is the extreme of Tao. When it is extreme, it will grow and decline, and when it declines, it will change. Yang cannot grow alone, and yin cannot grow alone. Therefore, heaven and earth are matched with yin and yang. Passive skill 2, no edge, hidden clumsiness. Yin and yang work together, no edge hides clumsiness, and the swordsmanship is improved by a big level. Active skill 1, sun and moon shine together. Spend 5,000 script points and activate the sun and the moon. The stronger you are, the more lethal you will be. It can kill immortals and demons at the least, or destroy the heaven and the earth at the worst. Cooling time, 30 days. Note, I didn't see my old friends before, and I didn't see those who came after me. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, my eyes are so sore and uncomfortable, but I definitely don't have yang, so don't worry, it's just that the update is a little slow.